The dreaded bureaucratic appointment in Portugal. It's pretty much everyone's worst nightmare, and if you are moving here, it's something that you simply cannot avoid. To add to things, depending on where you go, you may even be refused service if you can't speak or understand Portuguese. It's difficult for me, even as a fluent speaker. I have been reduced to tears myself on multiple occasions, but after living here 7 years, I have got a few tips and of course some phrases in Portuguese that will make it a little easier and may drastically increase your chances of success, because the Portuguese do love it when foreigners try to speak the language, especially when they know that you are really trying to learn. So if you're ready for today's lesson, give this a thumbs up, and if you are new to the channel, seja bem-vindo. My name is Liz and I help people who are relocating or retiring to Portugal to build their confidence and conversation skills fast via this channel and my Portuguese Pro program that each teach practical Portuguese in plain English. So if that sounds like something that you need, make sure you hit subscribe and stick around. So let's start with some practical tips and then we'll get into the Portuguese. My first tip for you is please take every document that you have. So this is something that I talked about in my What I Wish I'd Known Before Moving to Portugal video, which went super viral. You can check that one out next. I'll link it in the description. But essentially every piece of paper that you have been given since moving to Portugal, just keep it in one folder and always take the whole folder with you whenever you go to any appointment. Because even if you think that a document isn't going to be relevant to the appointment that you're going to, you can guarantee that they're going to ask you for something that you didn't expect, okay? So by taking along everything, you can at least think, okay, yeah, I've got that in this folder somewhere, and produce it. Don't be surprised if they ask for something that you've never heard of. If you have a list of documents that you need to take, there's probably going to be something else that you didn't know that you needed or that you haven't got. So also just manage your expectations about you might need to go more than once to actually get something sorted out. So if you can do that, that's going to be a really big help. Next up, depending on what the appointment is, you can actually try making the appointment outside of the city. If you are in a big city like Lisbon or Porto, it really could be worth your while finding one of these offices that is outside the main area. So my husband, one time when he was renewing his residency, went all the way to Braga. This really can work because the waiting times are so much shorter. Otherwise, you may need to write off an entire day to be sitting around waiting for your turn in the office. So give that a try. See if there is a different office that is going to be less busy that you can go to. So the final tip that I have for you is something that I spoke about at length in my video about how we organized our wedding, which was a bureaucratic nightmare. But the tip that I came up with for this was to kill with kindness, because yeah, things are going to go wrong. It's going to get stressful, and getting angry or impatient is not going to help you in this situation. Instead, you need to go the absolute opposite way and be as polite and patient and kind as possible, and really try to make friends with the person on the other side of the desk, because to be honest, your fate that day is entirely in their hands, and they can and will, if they're in a bad mood, make things difficult for you. So be as nice as you possibly can, and this is where the Portuguese comes in. It is going to make such a difference if you start off this appointment, even if you have to fall back on English as well. If you start the appointment in Portuguese, it's going to change the tone of the whole experience and really show to people that you are trying. Definitely check out my wedding video where I talk about this, because it really was quite an unbelievable story, and maybe it will also be helpful for you in the future as well. So here's some vocabulary that you might need when you go to your appointment. I do actually have a whole video on how to make appointments over here. That one also might be helpful for you. I'll link it in the description. The first thing you need to know is that appointment is marcação. Marcação, with a nice nasal sound at the end there. Something else you will need without fail is your senha. Now, what is this? It's this little ticket with a number that is going to tell you when it is your turn. So all of these government offices or anywhere that you're going to do something bureaucratic, you're going to need one of these. You're probably also going to have to fill in a formulário. This is a form that is going to ask for things like your morada, which is your address, your assinatura, that is your signature, your número de contacto, and your data de nascimento. Now, for this, it's very important that you have memorized your numbers with a good pronunciation. So I do have a video on numbers on here as well. I'll link it in the description so you can practice those till they're perfect. So when we are greeting the clerk, as I said, you're going to have to be really polite. So you are going to want to greet them with a bom dia or a boa tarde. This is really important. The Portuguese do want you to greet with good morning or good afternoon. So make sure that you have got those down. And then you're going to need to address them as either senhor or senhora. Now, again, being polite in Portugal is very important and a little bit confusing grammatically, so I do have a video on how to be polite over here that you should definitely watch to make sure that you are getting this right. You also need to know some phrases to help you through if you don't understand what is said. Podia repetir, podia falar mais devagar, and the very important, I'm sorry, I didn't understand. Desculpe, não percebi. You can, of course, tell them that you are learning Portuguese. This way they will know that you can understand a little bit, but it's not perfect. Estou a aprender português. A few more helpful phrases. When it's your turn, you can say, é a minha vez, or sou eu, if they call out your name. If you're asked for a document that you don't have, you can ask, onde arranjo esse documento? Where can I get that document? If you need to ask how long the process will take, quanto tempo demora o processo? Finally, you are going to want to be super thankful. So here are some phrases you could use for that. Obrigada, ajudou-me imenso. Thank you, you really helped so much. Maybe flatter them a little bit. O senhor é muito prestável. This means you are very helpful. Obrigada pela paciência. Thank you for your patience. And then you want to wish them a good rest of the day. So you could say something like, boa continuação. I do have a whole video on things to say and strategies to help you when you are stuck for words. So this would be a great video for you to check out as well. I really hope this gives you the courage to face your next appointment. And I want to leave you with this message from my student Dallas, who proved that it is possible to get through these appointments in Portuguese and that it makes a huge difference if you can. Here's what he posted in the community. I needed to change an address, but there was some mix-up about a password and a non-responsive fiscal rep, and I ended up going to 3 different offices trying to fix what felt like a very circular problem. At the 3rd office, I overheard a worker chiding a young German woman about not speaking Portuguese, and I also listened as several other people were told to make appointments and return at a later date. I decided to speak as much Portuguese as I possibly could when it was my turn. I'd memorized how to ask to have my address changed, and that was enough for the worker to happily talk to me for a minute before asking if I spoke Portuguese. I was able to answer that I understand a little and that I'm learning, and that seemed perfectly acceptable to him. We continued the conversation in a mix of both English and Portuguese, and I was able to resolve my issue. I do not think it would have gone well if I'd have started in English. Very grateful. You don't want to be the person getting told off or being sent home. So please come and learn more Portuguese with me so we can make sure that you are feeling confident enough to navigate these practical situations with ease. You can get started and find out how to get the same results as Dallas by taking my free taster lesson for beginners, which is linked in the description. We cover everything that you need to get started, from pronunciation to understanding real life dialogue and a quick start guide to the most important grammar. I hope that I see you there. I'll be back next week with more tips and tutorials to improve your confidence and conversation skills in Portuguese, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss a thing. Ciao for now.